Books are already dropping 2026 college football lines, and some of these numbers just don't make sense. Today, I'm breaking down 4 early lines that I think the number is wrong, and if you were to bet now, you'll get a better number than you will if you wait till the fall. Welcome back to 3rd and 23. I'm your host, Alex, here to bring you another off-season college football video. This video, as I said, we're talking 4 early lines. It's the lines that won't last long. As you can see, the 4 games I have on the screen. Let's go ahead and dive right into it. First game, Oregon visiting USC. Oregon's currently a 5.5 point favorite. It's gonna be early in the season. I believe week 5 in the season. Week 5, I believe, in the season. And it's all, for me, when I'm doing these analysis, it's about roster and situation, right? Schedule and everything around it, right? So let's go ahead and get into it. So Oregon, hype might be ahead of reality. You have a new offensive coordinator, right? Oregon's OC, he goes to be the Kentucky head coach. They promote Drew Mehringer to be the new offensive coordinator. He was the tight ends coach the last few years. He's been an OC once in his career. That was 10 years ago. He was the OC for Rutgers, and it was a complete disaster. You could say maybe he learned a lot in 10 years. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. But are you willing to bank on it? Me, not so much. You got Dante Moore back at quarterback. Look, I'm not a big Dante Moore guy. I've never hidden that. Last year, he's projected to be the first or second pick of the draft, right, going into the college football playoff. Then Texas Tech and Indiana happened. All of a sudden, he's returned to school. You can say what you want what that means, but I know what it means to me. It means his stock dropped, as it should have. And if you really look at Dante Moore, if you double-click into the numbers look nice, but if you double-click into them, 2 games against Indiana, the game against Texas Tech, against legit defenses, man, he struggled. He puts up a lot of numbers against bad football teams, but when it gets a little tougher, check out that Iowa game from last year too. It gets a little tougher, things don't look so good. USC haven't been a great defense in years past. Last year a little better, but I think they're going to be much improved this season. More on that in a second. And then finally, situation, right? So the first 4 games of the season, USC is going to open against Boise State. That's a lot of picks to be the G5 representative in the college football playoff. And then they're going to go the very next week, they go on the road to Oklahoma State. They beat Oklahoma State 65-3 last year, but Mike Gundy's out. All those players are out. They bring in North Texas's head coach, who comes with his quarterback, who's an NFL prospect, comes with his running back, comes with a bunch of guys from North Texas that had a great season last year. I think they had a turnover of 60. I think they have 60 new faces in Stillwater. And this game is going to be a noon kickoff Eastern time. So that's a 9 a.m. kickoff Oregon body clock time. So that could be a tough, dicey game for them. So I'll bring that up to say this line is -5.5. But if Oregon has a couple close victories early in the season, going on the road to USC, this line may drop -2.5 to -3.5. Let's go ahead and look at things from the USC perspective. Looking at USC, you got Lincoln Riley back, Jaden Mauava back at quarterback, Heisman contender for sure. Got his running backs back, Wayman and King, plus 4 returning offensive line starters. I know they got to replace Mekhi Lemon at wide receiver, but they got Tanuk Hines back. They bring in Terrell Anderson, a starter from NC State, who's a good player. Bring him in to be a wide receiver, to start at wide receiver. So you're going to do what you can to replace the Biletnikoff winner. Obviously, you can't replace everything he did, but you got the running backs, you got the line, and you got the quarterback, and you got the coach. Lincoln Riley knows offense. So this USC offense is going to be good. Then Lincoln Riley hires Gary Patterson as his DC. Now, if you don't know about Gary Patterson, he was the head coach for TCU for about 20 years, and they were known for having a very good defense in his time there. I think this is probably the best defensive mind that Lincoln Riley's ever had. And I think he's going to vastly improve this defense from what it's been over the past few years. I really like the USC defensive line, especially at edge. So I think they could cause some problems to Oregon that showed last year they got problems blocking. And they didn't go into the portal and add any faces to help them out there. And then finally, USC on the other side, in terms of the schedule, they're probably going to be 4-0 going into this game because they've got cupcakes to start the year out. They got their Big Ten opener the week before at Rutgers. That's a W. The rest is G5 and FCS schools. So USC's probably 4-0, probably cooking. Oregon might be looking a little shaky that this line drops -2.5 for Oregon, something like that. So if you're thinking USC, like I'm thinking USC, +5.5 looks really good right about now. All right, moving on to the next game. We've got Clemson visiting Florida State. This game is all about schedule, but we'll get that in a moment. When we talk Clemson, Dabo Swinney, he's got a rebound off of what happened last year. Just massive disappointment. In my opinion, this is probably his least talented team of his tenure at Clemson, but they still got pieces. TJ Moore, Brian Wesco at wide receiver. That's a very good wide receiver tandem. Sammy Brown at linebacker. He's one of the best linebackers in the country. Ashton Hampton at corner. He's one of the best corners in the country. They got really good corners, actually, at Clemson. So they got a lot of pieces still on this team. He tries to reset the offense with Chad Morris, his old OC back when he first started to get things going at Clemson. And he's going to do it with quarterback Chris Vicina, who did start a game last year against SMU, and he didn't look bad. So you got some pieces here to be all right that I think Clemson's probably going to be around 5-2, something like that going into this game. Florida State, on the other hand, you guys already know, unless you've been under the rock, obviously Mike Norvell is on the hottest seat in America. In my opinion, they were looking to, well, not in my opinion, probably in everybody's opinion, they were looking to fire him last year, midseason. Like all those midseason firings were happening, right? But they couldn't afford the buyout, which I believe was $60 million. Couldn't afford the buyout. And in my opinion, they were thinking, well, we're going to save our pennies till we get to this season, midseason, and then we're gonna let him go then. Because if you think about it, Florida State, their offense coordinator was Gus Malzahn. He's gone. He retired or something. They didn't hire a new OC. Think about it if you're an owner of a company or a manager at a business. You know you're getting rid of a guy. He needs this, assistant manager, OC, right? But you already know you're getting rid of him. So why are we going to waste that money? We need the money to get rid of you, right? So that's what I think they're doing. I think that's why they didn't hire an OC. That's why they promoted from within just some figurehead. It's really going to be Mike Norvell calling plays because they're not trying to waste money. Look at the roster. They didn't spend a bunch of NIL money. They need that money because I believe that Mike Norvell is out of there after that bye week. They play against Miami the week before the bye week. I believe on Halloween, or actually maybe this game's on Halloween. But the week before the bye week, Florida State plays Miami. They lose that game. I think they dropped to 3-4 with the other opponents that they faced earlier in the season. At 3-4, going into the bye week, I think Norvell is up out of there. They put whoever as the interim coach, the O-line coach or whoever. He's the interim coach on a thin roster, coming off the bye, playing Clemson. This line's not going to be 1.5. Fired head coach. Clemson probably 5-2, something like that coming into this game. This is going to be a much bigger number than 1.5. I wouldn't be surprised if this was more like 7.5, 8.5, something like that going into this. So to me, I like, if you like Clemson, if you think Clemson is going to beat Florida State this year, and if you think Florida State's really going to go in the tank, Clemson 1.5, man, you got to do that now on July 4th. All right, moving on to the next game. Got another Florida State game. That's the Gators in the nose. Same kind of deal. Florida, they got a new staff with John Summerall back, but they got an experienced back seven on the defense side of the ball. Very good linebacker unit. And on offense, they got a star running back in Jaden Ball, who ran for over 200 against Florida State last year. They got a deep wide receiving core. The quarterback situation at Florida, to me, not really that impressive. But by the end of the season, and they have a QB that knows the system transferred in from Georgia Tech, and the OC came over from Georgia Tech, so he knows that system. I think you're going to see at least some offense there in the passing game from Florida. And they're likely coming in with 2 straight wins, because I believe before this game, they're playing Kentucky and Vanderbilt. That should be 2 W's in a row, so they should be feeling themselves and probably come in something like 7-4, something like that coming into this game. 4.5 point spread against a team they beat by 20 points the last 2 years, including 2 years ago in Tallahassee. On a team that against a team that I believe is going to be checked out, because by the time this game comes around, right? Situation. Remember, thinking situation. If it works, if it goes the way I think it's going to go, and probably a lot of people think it's going to go, Florida State's probably mailing it in by the end of the year. You got to think that when it comes to this game right here, I don't think the rivalry is going to matter that much. I think they're going to be thinking, who is our next head coach? Let's get this over with. Mail it in. Season's over. Season's checked out. That's what I think is going to happen with Florida State. I think you can see a long stretch of losses after that Clemson game for Florida State, and they'll be just thinking about the future. So minus 4.5 against a team that's won by 20 the last 2 years. I mean, this is kind of the easy work to me. I would take Florida minus 4.5. I would expect this to be probably minus 9.5 at least by the time this game comes around. All right. And the fourth and final game, Tennessee Volunteers against the Vandy Commodores. So I've talked about Tennessee. I've actually talked about both these teams in 2 separate videos. I think Tennessee is a much stronger team than people are giving them credit for coming into this season. You got Josh Heupel, great offensive mind. You got a great running back. You got great receivers on the outside. I think you got a good offensive line. You got a quarterback that I'm going to trust Heupel because we haven't seen him play. But if Heupel thinks his QB can't play, he's going to go into the portal and get one. He didn't do that. So he believes in who he has, and he's always been able to produce. So I'm going to trust Josh Heupel, what they got at quarterback. I like on the defensive side of the ball. I like what they got at linebacker. The back end, maybe a little weak, but I like Tennessee a lot. I think they could be, I don't put 9-3. I meant 9-2, 8-3 going into this game, because I think they could have a really good season. I think they could be on the cusp of making it to the college football playoff. Maybe not make it, but right there on the cusp. I think they got a lot of good pieces on this team. The line is -3 against Vandy. Yeah, I know they got blown out by Vanderbilt last year, but this is a completely different Vanderbilt team. I'm not buying Vandy for 1 second. You got Diego Hangover here. They lost the Heisman level quarterback that they never have here, and an All-American tight end, by the way. And then, a lot of people want to clown Diego Pavia for what happened with the lead up to the draft and everything. A lot of that probably deserved getting clowned for that. The reality is, though, he was like Johnny Manziel 2.0 out there for Vandy. He was balling last season, and he's the reason why Vanderbilt had all their success. And your Vandy fans are about to find that out. They bring in a freshman quarterback who I believe they're going to start, 5-star QB. Talked about this before. You think just because a guy's a 5-star quarterback, he's going to look like Joe Montana off the rip? Man, please. That's not how college football works. He's going to look like a freshman off the rip. And sure, this is at the end of the season, but they got a bad offensive line. They really got one receiver in Junior Sherrill, and they had a bad defense last year that's not going to be much improved this season. Vanderbilt's going to be 3-8 going into this game, maybe 4-7 going into this game. This isn't going to be -3 if Tennessee's a team on the cusp of making it to the college football playoff, and Vanderbilt is not even going to make a bowl game. There's no way this is -3. I think the Vols are going to smack Commodores this season. This -3 is a gift to me. I don't know what Vegas is even thinking here, but I'll take the Vols at -3. But anyway, that wraps it up. If you like the content, please like, comment, subscribe. All of that is going to see more off-season content as we lead towards the regular season when I do all of my weekly picks. We're getting closer. As a matter of fact, I think games kick off next month. So, again, if you like the content, like, comment, subscribe. Happy 4th of July, and hope you are staying cool in the heat wave. Take care.